was my terrifying experience when I was 13. My cousin and I had planned to go to the cinema to watch The Conjuring 2, and we were so excited because it was our first time watching a horror movie without adults. Originally, we were supposed to go with our older cousin, but since it was my cousin's birthday, she agreed to let us go alone. At the cinema, we bought popcorn and snacks and entered the screening room excitedly. After finding our seats and sitting down, I suddenly caught sight of a woman in a nun's outfit, which startled me at first. Then I thought she might be a staff member of the cinema, so I mentioned it to my cousin. We got even more excited, thinking the atmosphere was just perfect. The nun sat a few rows behind us, quietly watching the movie. As I was watching, I accidentally turned around and found her staring at me. She was sitting, but her head was turned, and her eyes were fixed on me. I was so scared that I quickly told my cousin, who told me to ignore her, so I forced myself to focus back on the movie. For the next half hour, I tried hard to concentrate on the plot, but I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. When I turned around again, I almost screamed. The nun had moved to a seat very close to us. I nervously nudged my cousin, and she glanced over, reassuring me that the movie was almost over and told me not to worry. But for the rest of the time, I was on edge, wanting to look back to see where she was, yet afraid she might be closer. Finally, as the movie was about to end, I mustered the courage to look back, and she was gone. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, I caught a glimpse of a black head in the front row out of the corner of my eye. It was that nun. She had moved to the front row. I was so scared I couldn't speak. I just kept poking my cousin's arm, pointing to the front row. My cousin saw it and panicked too, pulling me to quickly change seats to the place closest to the exit stairs. We were watching the nun while absent-mindedly watching the movie. By then, the movie had been out for several days, and there weren't many people in the theater, making the empty space feel even more eerie. There was a particularly scary scene that made me temporarily forget about the nun, but as soon as the scary sound effects stopped, I immediately remembered her. I turned my head and saw that she was standing at the end of our row. The light was too dim for me to see if she was looking at us, but my intuition told me her gaze was fixed on us. My cousin also felt creeped out and told me that if she came closer, we should run to the front row. We kept watching her like this until the end of the movie. Suddenly I heard footsteps and turned to see the nun quickly rushing towards our seats. My cousin, who was closest to the stairs, immediately stood up and ran downstairs, and I quickly jumped over the seats to follow. Behind us came the nun's laughter, sharp and piercing. When we ran to the entrance of the theater, the lights suddenly came on. Looking back, the nun was holding a knife, grinning at us and waving the knife in our direction. We screamed and rushed out of the theater, and the staff quickly stopped us, asking what was wrong. As soon as we explained the situation, the nun came out laughing, still holding the knife, and started stabbing randomly at the people around. Her target was clearly us. Terrified, we ran desperately out of the cinema. Fortunately, there were police officers passing by, who immediately subdued her and took her back to the police station for investigation. We also went to the police station and explained the whole situation. It turned out that the woman dressed as a nun had a mental illness. After escaping from a psychiatric hospital, she disguised herself in clothes similar to cinema staff and sneaked into various screening rooms, then changed into a nun's outfit to commit crimes. That day, she injured 12 people in the cinema, but fortunately, none of them were in life-threatening condition. My cousin and I were scared out of our wits and quickly called our parents. When they arrived and saw we were okay, they finally breathed a sigh of relief. However, I developed a fear of cinemas. The terror of being chased by a madwoman is something I'll never forget in my life.